hello, and welcome to another episode of the Molten Truth. I am your host, Zoey Michaels. We've been around this block a time or two, and you know that last season we had mostly, you know, book writers, we had entrepreneurs, we had the amazing Caden Gordon, who is, runs his own radio show and among other things. And he was so kind to introduce us to a number of talented music artists, which we get to do on our second season here. So I get to talk about something I truly love, and that is the music business, the music world, and sources of inspiration. Our guest today is someone that I'm looking forward to getting to know at the same time that you are getting to know. I have not had a chance to actually say more than a few words of welcome to our guest, Dr. Wally Bartfay. So, Wally, welcome to our show.
You got it,
I'm looking forward to learning about you and about your music. You're very welcome. So, I'm just curious.
Thanks, Zoe. Thanks for having me.
About your journey.
Well, let's begin when I was about, I guess, 8 or 9.
Okay.
I started to put on free concerts, do some charity work in my community, which was Chateauguay, Quebec, where I used to live. Now I live in Oshawa, Ontario, which is about 40 minutes east of Toronto. And I'm a retired professor of health sciences and former associate dean here at Ontario Tech University, which is about a 10-minute walk from my home here.
Nice.
And, so I retired a little while ago. But and I'll tell you the connection between my research and music and where the musical journey actually began. But when I was 8 or 9, we used to put on these, I guess, Christmas concerts in my community in Chateauguay, in nursing homes for seniors and veterans, with my sister Kathy and my cousin Irene Bellin. And my mom and aunts would bake cookies and Christmas cakes and so forth. And it was a great experience. I really enjoyed giving back to community, especially around the holiday season where veterans and seniors are ignored. So those were my first, I guess, public, if you want, performances way back when. Several years later, my dad unfortunately had a series of strokes, and he developed vascular dementia. There are over 100 different types of dementia. Alzheimer's is the most common.
Sure.
And vascular is the second most common. But for his case, it was because of bleeding into his brain. He had a hemorrhagic stroke. And every year, every 3.2 seconds, someone in the world's diagnosed with dementia. And there's about 10 million new cases diagnosed every year. So it's a real huge problem that's growing globally. And patients with dementia, like my dad, often develop something we call BPSDs, behavioral and psychological symptoms of dementia.
Oh.
And they're things like hallucinations. They can become agitated and very, very aggressive, and so forth. They become very depressed. Well, the long and short of it is, because of my dad having these strokes, he was paralyzed. He couldn't move, and he ironically got admitted to the same nursing home that I used to put on Christmas concerts when I was a child. So he was in that same Chateauguay nursing home. And one way that to deal with the BPSDs, when he became agitated and so forth, is I used to sing him old folk songs that we used to sing up in the cottage around the campfire. And these would calm him down. And but this wasn't my first clinical experience with music as medicine. Back in the 1980s, I was doing a clinical rotation at the Douglas Hospital. It's near Montreal. And there was this 79-year-old lady who I was reading her chart. And she was an old high school piano teacher. And her daughter was there with me, and we wheeled her out. She was in a wheelchair to a common room that they had for patients. Mm-hmm. And there was an old stand-up piano, and I placed her hands on it. And after about 5 seconds or so, she started to play. And before, she was very disconnected. Her head was down. She was very disconnected she had advanced Alzheimer's disease. And music really was like flicking on a light switch.
Yeah.
It turned her mind and so forth. And if we do CT scans of patients with dementia at rest, and then you play some familiar song from their past, music engages many parts of the brain, the temporal, parietal, cerebral, limbic systems. They all light up like a Christmas tree in the brain.
Right.
So I was intrigued with music, and I often use music in my classes as well. I was known as the rockin' prof. Students, because this happened about maybe several decades ago. But for example, if I had a lecture to give about neurology, I would come in, and I like to do this very early on in the semester, and they expect the professor to be wearing a suit and a tie and what have you. And I would come in wearing jeans and cowboy hat and so forth. And I would take out my guitar and play a song.
Nice.
And then I would talk about my dad having dementia and how it would calm him down, and how we could use music. Has many applications.
Absolutely.
And so there was always a connection there. So it was a great way to break the ice with the students, but also to introduce, some of a personal level, how music has shaped my own research and so forth.
Absolutely.
And when I was associate dean, I had a chance to create something called the clinical demonstration unit. There's a hospital in Whitby, which is just across from Oshawa, just right next door to us, called the there is a basically it's a psychiatric hospital, and we created something called the clinical demonstration unit with nurses and psychiatrists, and we had various graduate students, and we wanted to look at non-pharmacological interventions instead of drugging them up all the time, so to speak, to deal with these BPSDs. And we tried things like there was light therapy, which seemed to help some. In Canada, we don't have a lot of sunlight. We do now because it's still summer, fall. But in the winter, they're often covered up. So we suffer from something called seasonal affective disorder, which is SAD, which is caused by low levels of vitamin D. And when you give their specialized light, it can increase vitamin D and help with depression and so forth. We've tried reminiscent therapy, where you look at old photos or movies or something they may have to stimulate their brain and get them back into that talking. And of course, we did music therapy. And music therapy was, we took these baseline measures and we created these customized playlist for patients based on their own favorite songs by family members and loved ones. And it consisted of 20 songs. Pick 20 favorite. People liked could be gospel, it could be jazz, it could be rock and roll,
but it had
classical,
to be personal
whatever
to them.
They preferred. It was personalized, and we had to deliver them. We couldn't, unfortunately, deliver the music using headphones like you and I are wearing right now, because sometimes patients become very agitated when you put something on them, and they can become aggressive. Even if you put a name tag, you'll see a patient name tag, they'll try to bite it off. So we got around that by using parabolic speakers. So parabolic speakers are unidirectional speakers. So it would just be focused here. And if someone was sitting beside me, they wouldn't hear the music. It costs about $80 Canadian. Very low cost.
Sure. It's kind of thing they would use like at vendor booths, like if you were at a like a trade show.
Or at crosswalks, for example. If you hear that beeping at a crosswalk for people who are visually impaired, if you go left or right of it, you won't hear it. But if you're in that crosswalk, you will hear that beeping noise. It's safe to cross.
Makes sense.
Same idea, same type of technology.
Yeah.
And we took these baseline measures, and we had a colleague, Dr. Terry Wu, who was from business and IT. And one of his graduate students was also looking at cost-benefit analysis and something called SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And we wanted to look at how often nurses, for example, gave medications to deal with if they were having an episode, an outbreak. These are all costs involved for the hospital and for the care of the patient. So we took these baseline measures, how often it occurred, and then we would administer this music intervention 3 times a week for half an hour. We would monitor how often they were having outbursts during the intervention and also post intervention.
Absolutely.
The long and the short of it is, we did publish this in a peer-reviewed journal,
Mm-hmm.
scientific journal. But the long and the short of it is, music is medicine,
I
and it
completely agree.
really calmed them down,
Yes.
BPSDs. And we're only now starting to look at the benefits of music, or re-examine music and sound
Mm-hmm.
and frequencies and how it can be used for various healing purposes.
Absolutely.
Our very, very first musical instrument was found in Slovakia. It's a place called the Witch's Cave.
Okay.
And it was a femur, or a long bone, if you want, a femur from a bear.
Oh,
And
okay.
it had drilled holes in it. And it was actually the very first musical instrument that archaeologists have found. And it's 40 to 60,000 years ago.
Wow.
So we were making music, 60,000 years ago. Think about that for a
Sure.
moment. The Greeks used to use music for calming down, to dealing with sleep and anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Their god Apollo was not only, of course, the god of music, he was also the god of medicine. If we look at the ancient symbol for a Chinese symbol, which is 2,000 years old, if we look at the symbol for happiness and music in Chinese character, they're identical. And if you look at the symbol for medicine, there's an extra line on top with 2 vertical lines. That means medicine. So there was always a connection with traditional Chinese medicine, music, and healing. And now we're looking at things like binaural beat therapy and different sounds. Binaural beat therapy, just as a little kind of a quick explanation of what that is. If I have a sound coming through one side of my headphone at 310 hertz, the other one at 300. The difference, if you take away 310 from 300, it's 10 hertz. We can't hear 10 hertz. We only hear 20 to 20,000 hertz, the human ear. But it creates something in our brain called an auditory hallucination. Binaural beat therapies were first discovered by a guy called Heinrich Wilhelm Dove. This was way back in 1939. He used tuning forks. But the first real publication, or scientific publication, came out in Scientific American back in 73, a guy called Gerald Oster, called Auditory Beats in the Brain. So he said these could be used as a research tool for dealing with things like Parkinson's disease. What you find with these binaural beat therapies, it can stimulate, for example, it can decrease stress and anxiety. It can alter insulin levels for diabetics. It can increase dopamine levels, so it has implications for diseases like Parkinson's disease that has low levels of dopamine, and it causes the shakes with Parkinson's. Improve memory. You can use music has been used for musical analgesia with dentists, for example. The less or some minor surgeries, you can decrease the amount of pain and analgesics that need to be given, so your recovery is quicker.
Oh, that's interesting.
And we're just starting now, to look at all these, how music and frequencies and sounds can be used. If you go into your local Walmart, in the baby section, you'll see these white noise monitors, right? And the white noise helps people sleep, helps babies sleep. So there's people who are using what they call white noise therapy. There's brown noise, which is a little bit deeper, sort of like an ocean. People listen to ocean waves. And it has many, many clinical applications that we're just starting to really re-examine now. Some people are using frequencies. There's a gentleman, Zimmerman, for example. If you take a certain frequency of hertz, where between 100,000 and 300,000 hertz, you can shatter leukemia cells. So we're just starting to look at these applications. It's very, very exciting. So that's kind of how I got into music, where I started to look and started to do some research into music. But I'm also an indie artist. I've had four. I was on the world indie chart list and Euro indie chart list. I have four number one hits.
Cool.
You're My Beautiful, Cherry Hill Gal, Little Sunshine Gal, and Wrote This Song to Say Goodbye Girl. And my latest one with Stephen Wrench, who collaborated on these songs with, it's called Ripples of Time. And that's number 15 right now on the Euro Indie chart list.
Very.
So that's a little bit of background. So yeah, I like to write. I'm a singer and songwriter. And I like to do charity work if I have an opportunity. I've done some work with autism, Kids for Autism, and Make-A-Wish Foundation with Gordon Ramsay. Did a little bit of work there.
Nice, very nice.
Played some of my songs and so forth. So yeah, I enjoyed that. Yeah, so
that's very cool. So the songs that you write, are they inspired by your research, or are they inspired just by life, or these songs that are like these on the European chart? I'm just kind of curious about those.
Yeah, well, some of my life experiences or something that you come across. Ripples of Time, from the newest one, for example, tells a story about Hollywood and the whole Hollywood culture. It's, people in our society really worship youth. And once you get old, they start to, we're not worth as much, so to speak. We devalue older artists and so for older and actresses. So it tells a journey of someone who was on sort of this walk of famer, and she starts to rely on alcohol, unfortunately, and ends up taking her own life at the end. Just can't deal with it because it deals with a very dark topic, if you want, suicide. But it's sort of a social statement as well. You're My Beautiful, which hit number one as well, was a song to my wife that I wrote.
Nice.
She's a 10-year breast cancer survivor, so I wrote that for her birthday. So these are just two examples of how things in your life could, influence your song.
Absolutely.
Summer of '85 was a song I wrote. I was looking through an old picture album, and you come across some old pictures, and you kind of wish I can go back to the summer of '85, which was a great time. So hence, summer of '85.
Absolutely.
So you get inspired on many different things. But I'm a country rock artist.
Okay.
That's what I am. Yeah.
I was wondering about your genre. So country rock is what you prefer. It's interesting about music how, even though we can't literally travel through time, music does have that capacity to at least mentally let you time travel. It really can take you back to those moments.
Well, there's always a song, where that's right. There's always a song from our youth or something. Like when I hear Stairway to Heaven, like we don't write down the words. This is really interesting for these long, lyrics, or Highway to Hell, or whatever the song you're listening, AC/DC. Yeah. And we never write down the lyrics, but we know them.
True.
And we know them, verbatim. 70, 80, 90 years, you can ask someone verbatim.
Yeah.
Because one of the last memories to go in our mind is actually the music memory.
Yeah.
People with Alzheimer's disease and different types of dementia, which is in the case of my dad, for example, sometimes forgot who my mother was, who went to visit him almost every day.
Yeah.
When he was at the nursing home, and brought him, home cooked meals and snacks and what have you, and took care of him, would shave him and so forth. But sometimes he would be very confused, and he wouldn't even know who she is, and that was very disturbing. You don't forget music. Music is one of the last memories to go. First, our short-term memory goes with dementia, and then our long-term memory. But that's one of the last memories to go, is music. Like I mentioned, that patient playing the piano in Montreal didn't forget how to play piano, even though she had dementia for 15, 20 years.
Exactly. When you were describing that, it reminded me of a movie I saw. It's probably 15 years old or better now, but the movie The Notebook. Do you remember seeing that movie, or have you ever heard of that movie? But where she had, I think, Alzheimer's, and that was the one thing that she did remember, was how to play the piano, that particular song, and I guess she could sight read, but yeah, she went from sight reading to then she shifted to that song that was purely by memory, and I did not realize
Yeah,
that
yeah,
until that
yeah.
movie. That was my first thought of, oh, they could still, access that part of their brain. But until that movie, I had not
Hmm.
realized. But um, you know, it was really only this year myself that I thought of music as medicine. I never realized it as far as like dealing with things like leukemia or things like that. I was thinking more mental, emotional wellness. And so I experimented with it myself for my own purposes this year and was astounded by what I was able to do with music to help myself. But hearing about your experiences and your research, I'm amazed that there's additional applications I had not realized.
Oh, yeah, and just the music itself, like a song, you hear a song, I hear a song, like, let's say a high school song, and I used to listen to when I was in My Sharona comes on or something on an old radio, and I said, oh, and you start dancing. I don't know, it's even if you're in a lousy mood, you start dancing. Or if I hear Thunderstruck by AC/DC or something, it's on thunder, like it just brings you up for some reason.
Mm.
And everybody has their own songs and genre, and mine was a mix of growing up of country and rock and roll, because my mother loved Tina Turner,
Yeah.
and the queen of rock and roll, and but we listened to the Stones. We had a lot of John Denver, we Johnny Cash. We listened to a whole bunch of different country and rock songs in our home growing up. On the radio, and driving up to the cottage, we would listen to radio as well. But not just music, but there's these sounds that we have applications. I mentioned binaural beat therapy, but the noise therapy, like for brown music and white music, helping people with ADHD, kids with autism, helping people with sleep, dealing with stress and anxiety. And the brown noise is my oldest son, when he was in Paris studying for a year, he had problems sleeping there. And he would listen to brown noise to fall asleep. And it's basically like ocean waves and very calming. And that
I was
would
gonna
help him
ask. I was kind of curious,
calm
like
down
what was the
and
difference between
sleep.
white
Yeah.
and brown. So I'm glad you kind of like expounded on that.
Yeah, there's also pink noise and the green noise, but there's also gray noise. Gray noise is very textured, very. It's often done by in a lab. They customize it for the individual. So, gray noise is application not only for sleep and ADHD, but it's used to treat tinnitus. Tinnitus is a fancy way of saying
The buzzing.
ringing in the ears.
Yeah.
People have a constant the buzzing, the ringing.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be used for treating tinnitus. But I also mentioned like this binaural beat therapy, what we're finding, for influencing physiological changes in the body, like insulin and dopamine levels. That has huge potential, clinical implications. And my own research with dementia and music, instead of taking a medication, basically just knocks them out. This is a much more I guess it improves their quality of life and so forth. And we don't have to always over medicate these patients. We can give them something back where they can enjoy in their, in those final years of their life or final months of their life. Look for these non-pharmacological interventions that we're
Absolutely.
just, this is all in its infancy right now, but it's something that has been around, like in Chinese medicine. I mentioned the Greeks used to do it. In different cultures around the world, have been playing music and using it for healing. First Nations people in Canada and in North America have been using, beating, rhythmic beating, which for years and years, for not years, for hundreds of years, literally. And we're just getting back to understanding physiologically and psychologically and socially some of the benefits of music.
Absolutely.
Music is not just for listening when we're driving in the car.
Exactly. Although that's probably where
I
we
don't go to
listen to it
clubs,
the
but
most, right?
yeah.
It's so true, though. So, is this part of what you continue to study through the university, or is this a hobby interest for you, kind of on the side? I don't know if you're retired or if you're still
Yeah.
actively a professor. I'm we're getting to know you here.
Well, yeah, I retired in August of 2024, but I still do research related to the history of music. I'm very interested in, and some of the applications. Looking at that, and you know, trying to see what's out there, and not only music but sound and frequencies that we can use for various applications. When we look at different, I mentioned that research with cancer cells, leukemia at 100,000 to 300,000 hertz can break it up. We know that things that shake, when something starts to resonate at a certain frequency, even in nature, can destroy certain things. The classical example there is in the Coma Narrows Bridge. You may have heard of November 7th, 1940s. This was a bridge made of concrete and steel, a suspension bridge. And in 1940, there was these blowing winds, and it started to resonate with the bridge the same frequency as the wind.
Oh.
And day after, it was started to oscillate at about 40 miles per hour, which is about 64 kilometers an hour. So it started to resonate about that 40 miles an hour, and with the wind. The day after it was built, it collapsed.
Boy.
So you can take something that's steel and concrete, and just with oscillating with the frequency, you can collapse steel and concrete.
You said it was brand new.
Look at
day after.
Yeah, it was brand new.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, something like a day after. It started to resonate in 1940. I know the date, November 7th. It was called the Coma Narrows Bridge. You can Google that.
I may have to, because I mean,
suspension bridge.
That's just shocking. I may have to, just because I'm shocked by that, such a story that a new bridge, and then have that happen and so quickly, and yeah, I may have to look that one up.
Yeah, you could also use sound in the lab,
yeah,
to basically to make things like you take a drop of water, for example, and gravity pulls on everything. But using certain frequencies, you can vibrate between those frequencies, and not gravity won't. You could levitate. In other words, water, even some large stones and so forth, and objects have been levitated using sound in different frequencies. That's one of the hypotheses for this ufologist who claimed that how the pyramids were built, for example. They said it was built using sound, which is interesting.
Well, that's theory.
On certain frequencies, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
But these are all in its infancy, using sound and frequencies and music. The applications of it certainly interest me. And of course, songwriting now is one of my passions, and it was really discovered or rediscovered, I say, for myself during COVID.
Yeah, time.
Because here in Canada we had the lockdown,
mm-hmm.
and we weren't allowed to give in class lectures, so everything was online, teaching online, with the exception of a few labs. We had with very controlled number of students in the lab. For nursing students, for example, and med lab students were allowed, but to do their various required sort of practices on computerized mannequins and what have you, where you can intubate them and do CPR and simulate various conditions using a computer. Before they actually practice on a patient, they would practice on these mannequins. So It was very controlled. But 98% of the teaching was done online. And being at home, I dusted off one of my old guitars downstairs, got some new strings, and started to write again. So there was a gap. In my 20s, when I was at university, I would play in coffee houses with a buddy of mine, Danny Arsenault. And, we would play just for fun, or a couple bucks here and there when we were going to college, free meal, or try to impress some girl in the audience or something.
Why not?
Yeah, but why not? That was it. But then music kind of disappeared for a little while until COVID came back. because life got busy.
It does.
Kids and work and research and what have you. And I was doing various directorships, and the associate dean kept me very, very busy at university.
True.
But during COVID, I had a time to sit down and write again. So, or took some old songs I started to write, and I had some notes in a binder, and I took it out, and I have like 80 to 100 songs, and started to rewrite them.
That's a lot of songs.
And I basically, started to rediscover music. Because sometimes you write a song, it might take you half an hour, and sometimes it might take you weeks. Depends on
how inspired
the song
you're feeling,
and what you're going for, and how you're reworking it, and you're reworking it, and this is not quite right,
True.
Something's missing, or you want to add something.
Yeah.
There was a song called "A Little Sunshine Girl" we wrote with Stephen Wrench, for example, and it has to do with going to the beach.
Mm-hmm.
It's a story about a guy who drives down from South Carolina, goes to Florida Keys, spends the day in the Florida Keys with, perfect day on the beach with the perfect girl, kind of scenario. Mm-hmm. And, we wrote the song, and something was missing. We tried everything. We tried Scottish bagpipes. We tried everything.
There's so many instruments to choose from.
It was, and it was steel drums. And I said, we finally did steel drums, and it worked. And I said, that's what was missing. We needed a little bit of that Caribbean
that
kind
vibe.
of flair in the song. Yeah. That beach kind of, we needed that steel drum sound. Something was missing. So, that song took a long time.
Absolutely.
Other ones, half an hour. It could be half an hour.
I get you,
though. Or less. On a napkin, in a restaurant, you just...
True. Well, it is. It's a lot of trial and error, trying to get the right lyrics and then find the sound to match what's in your head. And sometimes you don't know what the sound is until you hear it. I tinker with music. I will never be an actual music artist. I don't qualify. I won't ever be a music artist. But I do stuff for my own entertainment.
Never's a long time.
It is. I have zero musical talent. I can just tell you that. But I use AI music generator to help me kind of visualize and get where I want to go with what I have. And so a friend of mine had done a public speaking assignment and had used this illustration about taking a flight that just was 1 degree off course. So they missed the island of Hawaii, and they were kind of lost kind of in the ocean, which then led to this idea of a flight to paradise and so on and so forth. And I did so many variations, and like you it was like, okay, where's this sound that I'm looking for? And I tried steel drums, it didn't quite work, and I tried this sound, and I tried this sound, that sound. But thank goodness for AI, because I could do that a lot faster than you were able to do with all your experimenting. But my song will never make the radio or any Spotify's. My song is just for my pleasure. But
and there's nothing wrong with that. You don't always have to write a song to get it on the radio or Spotify. It's just for your own, or for your family, or sit around, outside on your balcony and sing to the birds. Like it's just for yourself, as long as it makes you happy.
Well, exactly.
And it gives you pleasure.
Exactly.
That's the critical thing about music. And the thing about music, it's universal. It doesn't matter what language you speak.
Yeah.
I'm in contact with many artists from all over the world, Japan and Africa, and you name it, Europe. And we don't always speak the same language. It's Google Translate, for everything.
Yep.
But music is something that we all speak.
Exactly.
It's a language in its own.
Yep.
And one of your favorites, right?
Actually, it was a dog. I just had I think my Amazon delivery just is arriving, so here's the noise. But in the case of the music that I write, it's usually either about something I'm trying to instill in myself. I'm trying to deeply ingrain a lesson I want to remember. In the case of that music about this 1 degree off course, it was about accepting correction, making correction early, like you do in a flight, so you get where you want to get. So I've got another one that's based on a book by Gabriel Karp. His book is Don't Get Mad at Penguins. So my song is Don't Be Mad at a Penguin. And it's based on the lessons in his book. Um, that it's not worth getting mad at a penguin because it can't fly. It doesn't have the capacity. Why are you going to get mad at something that simply can't do something it wasn't designed to do? So, like I said, my songs are for me, but they're usually for the point of drilling down something that I really want to deeply instill in myself. It's emotional intelligence homework for me. So,
Well, it's been said that everybody has at least one book in them and at least one song,
well, there you
right? So
go.
everybody has at least one book and one song, right? So there you go.
There you go. Yeah. But
music, for me, without music, it just wouldn't be living.
Yes.
To me, it has a lot of soul in my connectedness, and that's who I identify with now. And it's a very creative outlet, and it's therapy for me too. It keeps me young. It keeps my mind active, and I can deal with various life crises and so forth, different situations and so forth, different topics. Some of them happy, some of them are dark, like I mentioned, ripples of
Been there,
time,
done that.
Hollywood suicide, in song. And
Yep.
you can tell that story in a song, so it has
Exactly.
me as an artist, that's how I sort of view it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's value in that. Processing negative emotion in that song, getting it out of your system. Strong value in that. I am curious, when you brought the guitar into the classroom, the songs that you were singing to
I
your
would just,
class, were they
yes.
about the subject you were trying to teach your class, or were they just random?
Sometimes subject driven, sometimes random. Like the one I said, that neurology lecture, dealing with my dad. This was a typical campfire song that we would sing. Some John Denver's song, or what have you, Take Me Home Country Road or something. I said, this is something that we always sang around a campfire, and it brings back really great memories and so forth. And when my dad was having an episode, one of these BPSDs, if I started to sing it, he would forget about why he was having that hallucination or agitation, and he would start singing with me. It was just like, let's flick this switch off, flick on this positive switch, and my whole entire personality and everything is coming back to who I should be. It was just like that magical switch being turned off and on for him.
Back
So,
to
and
baseline.
you would talk about the science behind it. Yeah, the science behind it. But a lot of musicians now are using it for various applications. Jelly Roll, we all know of, a famous country singer. Spent some time in the penitentiary. Now he's giving back to his community, going to correctional facilities and so forth, and encouraging, people who are convicts now, to get into music, because
Sure.
music has healing properties and so forth. And we see it, music being played in church and so forth. And it makes people feel great when they sing various, gospel music. And it has, many wonderful applications for society and so forth. Makes us feel
Exactly.
good. Yeah.
It's true. I think of it
It's
as like
medicine. Yeah.
programming
Music is medicine.
language.
Yeah.
You program in what you want to come out. So kind of we're saying the same thing just in a different way, but I think we're on the same page. So as you follow this information, and as you build your music, because I'm sure there'll be more songs to come, do you have a website?
I do. Yeah. I have, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on X. I have a music website. I'm on, my music videos are on Vivo,
Okay.
and it's on YouTube. So you name it, I'm on it. So yeah,
And so we just do a
I
Google
could
search
send you
for
the link
Dr.
after.
Wally Bartfay, or how do audience find
Yeah,
it?
just punch in, just you can just push in Bartfay, Bartfay, music, and some of my songs will come up like on SoundCloud and Spotify and, on YouTube. So if you just punch in Bartfay Music Productions or Bartfay Music,
Okay.
if you punch in Bartfay Lectures, then my lectures, some of my online lectures will come on. And there's a
Okay.
little bit related to music and medicine there as well. So find it. Yeah.
So I have to say, if
There
I'm
might be
looking
some
for
other
you,
lectures too, like it.
it'll be for both. It'll be looking for music, but I'm gonna be far more interested also in the lectures. I'm gonna be like, okay, what's new in this medicinal world of things? Because my day job
Mhm.
tiptoes into the medical world also, so I'm very interested in both those things.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
I have 0 degrees, no qualifications. I am not a medical professional, but I'm on the edge of the medical profession, so I'm involved. Just I am not qualified to give any medical advice, but I'm definitely on the edge of being involved in people's medical care. So definitely an interest. So I didn't have a chance to forewarn you about this, so I'm going to be catching you off guard with this. I had
Okay.
watched this
Trick question.
podcast, very much so. This is going to be out of left field. But I had watched this very brilliant interviewer back during the summer who does all just medical podcast. And when I saw his podcast and what he did, I thought, that's brilliant. I am going to do that from now on. And I have ever since. He has his previous guest provide a question for a future guest, just a random question for the future guest. So I have a question from my last guest, and then it'll be up to you to leave a question for the guest who comes after you. So
Okay.
the question that I have for you is, let's see, I think we're going to ask you this one. What advice do you have for up and coming musicians, and what's been your biggest challenge?
Yeah. Myself, I never thought I would make it on a radio station. To tell you the truth, I never thought I would hear my songs being played around the world, which is a really humbling experience. I thought I would just be, maybe at a bar or in a tavern or some charity or hospital that I'm playing at, would be listening just to people in the audience. A lot of people in music are worried about exposure, and there's over 100,000 songs that are uploaded every single day on Spotify and YouTube. It's just the whole area is saturated. So how do you stand out? You stand out with your music. There's a lot of I would call it cookie cutter songs out there. Songs that you listen to one song, you listen to 10 songs. I'm not saying there's certain genres and so forth, but I'm not going there. But they sound a lot the same. And in order to stand out, you need to do something besides that cookie cutter, something that connects with other people. So often when you write songs, write from your heart, write from your own experiences, because there's going to be hundreds, if not thousands or hundreds of thousands of people who have gone through those same experiences, be it positive or negative, on that full continuum, on that full spectrum. And when you write from the heart, then you make the connection, and that's how you make the connection. It's not through flashy gimmicks and what have you, explosives and fireworks and what have you. It's making that personal connection with your audience. That's the trick to make it in music. At least I would argue. And from my own experience, when I see that people writing back, I've gone through this too, or a breakup or something in their life, or a hard time, a death in a family, or something. This is the personal connection that your lyrics resonate with them. Yeah. So write from
Absolutely.
your heart, write from your own personal experience. Don't try to write for the market. Don't follow that cookie cutter, because you won't stand out. There's too many cookie cutter songs out there.
Absolutely. And if nothing else, I would go on to say that the cookie cutter song, even if it made the 5 minutes of fame on the radio, is not something that's going to endure generations later. Whereas something from the heart might last 40, 50 years, 100 years later.
Yeah. Well, you name a song like "Stairway to Heaven" or
Right.
"Hotel California" or
Yeah,
some of those classic ones,
exactly.
that have been written. That people,
Mhm.
50 years ago,
Yeah,
people are still playing it today. People are still playing Elvis today. Why is that?
exactly.
Because it connects with them, on so
Hmm.
many different levels. And some songs may be number one for a week or two, and then it fades into
Oblivion.
oblivion. Like nobody hears about it. And, that's it. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. I agree with you on that. I'm going to ask this one just because it popped into my head. If you could work with any artist, like if you could collaborate any artist, dead or alive, who would you want to collaborate with?
there's way too many
You
out
can only
there.
choose one.
There's way too many. Yeah,
Then again, here's a dream
I'm
team.
probably going to go with Eric Church, Eric Church or Luke Combs, both of them. But I also, if I can have an opportunity to work with, like Tina Turner, unfortunately is gone, but
Sure. Well, we said dead or alive.
Pure rock and roll energy. My list will keep going on and on and on. So I'm just going to stop.
Well, top three
there.
Yeah.
But in terms of country music,
Eric Church
it'd
or
probably
Luke
be
Combs.
Eric Church. I really like his lyrics, his connection. Luke Combs is an amazing artist. Wilson. I mean, the list goes on and on. Female artists. I better not start because it's going to take an hour to go down my list. But I've had the pleasure of working with Stephen Wrench for some of these songs, and Stephen's been in the music business for 50, 60 years. He's had 6 Grammy Awards, produced lots of gold and platinum albums, and he's been a fantastic mentor. So I'll just give a plug to him because I learned a lot from him working with him and so forth. So yeah,
very cool.
Okay. And songwriting, incidentally, doesn't have to be done solo. It can be done collaboratively. Yeah. And often two heads are better than one. And the other thing about songwriting that's really important is look at a rhyming dictionary. Sometimes it's poetry, right? When you write music. True. So it's hard to get a word that rhymes all the time in your head. But if you take out these rhyming dictionaries, as a musician, every musician should have a rhyming dictionary.
That's a good point.
Either hard copy or on the internet, because it helps when you said what rhymes with money, what rhymes with this word, what rhymes with that word, and they'll show you 20 words and say, oh, I can go down this path because I want to tell a story about something, and that word really fits nice, so I can plug that in because you're writing poetry. Music is a form of poetry, if you want.
I would agree with that. I don't know, completely agree. I completely agree with that. I think people do get bogged down too much into it has to rhyme, but sometimes it's just more about telling the story and then go back and figure out, can I tweak it that where it maybe it needs to rhyme in certain spots, but tell the story. Focus on that part first.
But not every. Tell the story.
And then figure out the rest. That's what I think anyway. That's right, yeah. But so I don't know if I've allowed you time to kind of in the back of your mind think about questions.
You should allow
what?
You should put out your song that you
think
put out for your listeners to listen to, because I'm certainly curious to hear that off by one degree to Hawaii song. I'm kind of interested in that. So you piqued an interest in my
behind the scenes.
I want to hear that.
Yeah. I'll send you a copy via email.
Okay. There you go.
Did you have, at least in the back of your mind, a chance to kind of formulate a question? And it's okay if you didn't. You can always email me after the fact. But if you have a question for our next guest, I do like to jot it down while it's in my head to ask about it.
Yeah, I said what I would ask is, how can music benefit society as a whole? And it's a big question. How can music benefit society as a whole? Because it doesn't matter what ethnic race you are, what religion you are, what political affiliation you are. Music connects people. So how can music connect people that sometimes are not speaking on the same wavelength? That's my question, to make it a better world.
Very cool. I like that question.
As a whole, yeah.
I love it. I love the inside of that. Okay, well, we're going to wrap this up. So thank you so much for joining us today. Is there anything else you want to share with our audience before we let you go?
I am working on a new song.
Ooh.
It dates back to my high school years. It's called Old School Rock and Roll. It's a rock song.
I like the sound of it already.
Pure rock song. I wrote it when I was 16. And I'm working with Stephen Wrench on it. He's way in Europe right now on vacation. When we come back, we're going to be collaborating on this. So don't be afraid to collaborate. And this old time rock and roll tells the story of a 14-year-old guy. That was me, who got his first guitar. He used to save up money working in my uncle's garage, pumping gas and cutting lawns and shoveling snow in the winter here in Canada. Save up for my first secondhand guitar, and I learned to play it in Outback. Well, in this case, it's a tool shed until your fingers bled, literally, to learn it. And so it tells a story there, and kind of a story. So it's called old school rock and roll. So it has that old school 70s kind of rock and roll feel to it. Yeah.
I want to hear it. I definitely want to hear the song. So when it comes out, I want to know about it. If nothing else, tag me on my Facebook, do something. Make sure I see and hear this song.
I certainly will. You sure will.
Okay.
And check out my latest song, Ripples of Time, if you get a chance. Just Bartfay, Ripples of Time. Check it out, or You're My Beautiful, or one of those songs that I mentioned. Just Google it and tell me what you think. I'm always curious, positive or negative. Yeah.
Ooh, which reminds me, let me ask you this, because I only recently learned that I guess there's specific radio stations, and we can vote for like the song. There's like a way to vote for the songs and help you kind of make the Billboard charts. Is there a station we should be watching for? Is there a chart we should be telling people, hey, we love, Bartfay's music?
Yeah, well, if you go into Euro Indie Network music chart list, for example,
okay,
and music and film, with Stephen Wrench is promoting my music globally. So it's on various radio stations, being played globally. But you can vote on for that, for example, the Euro Indie Network music for your song as well. Yeah.
Network. Okay, good to know. I'm trying to make notes about this as I'm learning bits and pieces about the indie world when it comes to the music. But very cool. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to stop the video, but thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Zoe. It's been a pleasure. Yeah.
Okay, so we've stopped the video. At least I've